Hello, my friends. So in this video, I want to show you how we can collaborate on GitHub. So in the last tutorial, we learned how to set up a remote repository, and we also cloned that repository onto our local computer in two different ways. So we had one computer, one local version of our repository, and we also had a remote version of that repository. And then we could push our changes from the local version to the remote repository. All right, so that's really good, but I didn't show you how we'd work in a team on GitHub yet. So now let's say there's only me right now, so I can't show you exactly how all of us would work as a team. But what I am going to do is show you how to, I'm going to show you a typical workflow that I'll do in the office if I was working on GitHub on a project with about so many other people. All right, so the last tutorial, we made this repo on GitHub and we cloned this repository to our local computer. So now I want to, so let's say that this is a project that I'm working on in an office with 3 other developers, and we're all using this remote repository. So I've got this repository cloned on my desktop. And let's also assume that I come into the office and I've got some new work to do on this project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pull to keep my files locally up to date with the remote repository, just in case any of the other developers have made any changes. So to do that, what I'll do is first make sure that I'm on the master branch, because that's where I want to merge to. So to pull the master, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git pull, and then I'll say the origin, because that's the alias, right, that we're pulling from the remote repository. And then we're going to pull the master branch. So what git pull does is it fetches all of the code from the remote, and then it merges it into our local master branch, right? Because we've said master right here. All right, so we are on the master branch, and it's going to pull the master branch from the remote, and it merges it into our local branches, and it updates all the files. So in this case, no one has made any changes and everything's already up to date. So then that means the next thing that I want to do is, if I was working on a new feature, I should just check out a new branch, because I want to preserve the master branch, right? I don't want to edit it and then mess it up for everybody else or myself. So to do that, I'm just going to say git checkout -b for a new branch. And I'm going to create a branch called test.html. And then what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of HTML. So I'm going to create an HTML template. And inside of here, I am going to add an h1 tag. And inside it, let's just say that this is a test file. All right, so now I'm going to save it. And I'll add it to the staging area. So git add, and then I'll say git commits, because we are going to commit this branch. So the message is going to be add test HTML file. Cool. So we've made that commit, and now what we want to do is take this code and we want to push it to the remote repository. Now, what we don't want to do is merge this into the master branch locally and then push up the master branch, right? Because if we do that, it's going to override the master branch on the remote repository, and the rest of my developers might, they might not like that too much, we'll say. Because they, might not actually agree with the code that I've done, or, there's all kinds of reasons, but you understand the point. Ideally, what we want to do is push this branch up to the remote so that my other colleagues can review that code, and then they can all decide if we want to merge that into the master branch on the remote repository, so that everyone can download and pull from the master branch on their remote repositories to update their own local files. So that means what we're going to do is push up this branch. So to do that, I'm going to say git push, and then I'm going to say origin, and then the branch name that I want to push up, and that is test.html. Cool, so that is going to push up this branch, and we should get feedback in a second. Okay, so all that's done. Now we can check out the GitHub repository. All right, so we can see right here, it has been auto-updated. Now what I'm going to do is just click this button and compare and pull request. And that just means that we're going to compare the differences between these changes and the current state of the master branch. Then we can make a pull request, which means we want to merge it into the master branch on this repository. All right, so let's do that. On the next page, this is the message that we added to the commit. And we can also leave a comment if you want to explain exactly what you've done so that the other developers can read that and be pleased. Then we can create these pull requests. So I'm going to create this pull request, and that means that I'm putting in a request that I want to merge this branch into the master branch on this repository. So when I do this, all the developers are going to get a notification, and they're going to come and see this, and then they can review it. So we can assign reviewers right here. Currently, I'm working on my own. But if you were working in a team, other people would show up here, and you could assign one of those to review your code. Or all of them, whatever. They could come down here, and they could read this, and it says this branch has no conflicts with the base branch. It's a good sign. So there's going to be no conflicts if we merge this into the master branch. And if they wanted to write a comment about this code, yeah, they could do. They could do that right here. And I'll just put excellent. And then the comment shows up here. Now you could go down here. You could see the commits that I've made and the files that I've changed in here. So you can come in here, and all this green stuff is what I've added, and the red stuff is what I've deleted. And they can see all the changes in the code. Now, if you wanted to, you could add in a comment here, line by line, if there's something that you don't agree with or that your team doesn't agree with. They can just add that in a comment in here. Okay, so then if we're all happy with this pull request, let's say that we are, we can go back and merge this pull request to master. So now if we merge it and confirm the merge, that's going to take this branch and merge it into the master branch, right? So if we wanted to, we can delete the branch as well because it's already been merged, right? Okay, so if we now go to project 3 to see the code, we're going to see this test here. So now we've updated the master branch. What do you think of that? I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so imagine that a few hours later, someone's been on to the code and they've seen that you've, I don't know, missed out adding a paragraph, let's say. And they say, hey, you need to add some text in. Can you do that? And I'll say, okay, then what I'm going to do is start a new branch. But remember, before I start in a new feature, I always need to pull down the master branch just in case anyone's made any changes. So that means what I'm going to do is go to my master by saying git checkout master, and then I'm going to say git pull origin master. So this time it's going to pull something down, and we can see that, yeah, we've got some changes. So you can see it's updated the test page, and the change that I made in the last section where I uploaded that branch, that has come down to me. So we've updated that. And it's always good practice to update the master branch first of all before creating any new feature. Let that sink in. So to add that paragraph to the test page, I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to say git checkout-b, and I'll call this branch add text. Now, we need to check out the add text branch. So I'm going to add some text to this page. So I'm going to create a p tag and paste some lorem ipsum text in here. So let's save all this and add this to the staging area just by saying git add. Then commit this, git commit -m. As a message, we'll say add some text to test file. Now we can push this to the master. So I'm going to say git push origin add text because we are on the add text branch. You follow? Okay. So now we can go and see it on the remote repository. So let's refresh the page. Okay, so it's in here. Now we can create a pull request for the other developers to review our code. So let's click this link to create a pull request. And we've got a title here, and we'll add a comment in here. I'm going to say, hey, I've added some text to this test page in this pull request. So we can save it, and we can now create pull requests. Okay, so now, let's say that we're completely happy with this change. We can merge this back into the master branch. So that means I'm going to merge this pull request, which is going to take that text and add that to the master branch like so. And then we can also delete the branch, and you can keep it so you can refer to it in the future, but I'm just going to delete it here for now. So if we go to the code now, you can see that right there on the master branch. All right, so that's typically how we do things on GitHub, right? So now you've got a whole bunch of new methods. That's cool. But to sum it all up, I am pushing up my branches, and then if we are happy with that and all those changes on my remote branch, we merge them to the master. Then my other colleagues, they can pull down the master branch to get any updates that I've merged into the master. And they'll be getting those updates in their local repository. And then they can be working on it, or maybe adding other features on it, or pushing it to GitHub on a different branch, whatever. But in this way, we are doing different updates, and we can all work on things at the same time very, very easily. All right, my friends, that's how we collaborate as a team, in a team, for a team. It's how we push and we pull code from GitHub, and it's the way that we work in branches. All right, so there's a lot here. I hope this course helps you a lot, and that's all for now. I hope to see you in another tutorial, and keep developing.